morning, June 13th of 2024 for all you date people out there and time people. 9:08 a.m. Eastern. Getting started, Rob Browne, Brendan Martin, somewhere up in...
I'm looking at a beautiful golf course. The scenery I'm seeing this morning, Lake Geneva.
And it's probably not hot up there, too.
Oh, no. It was a balmy.
It's where my dog trainers...
last night for dinner.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
This house is something else. I'm staying with my brother-in-law's mother as my sister. This is our week. We're celebrating, remembering Joni Martin, my mama.
That's right. Absolutely.
Tomorrow. So we're the family together. So
you're in a beautiful spot. Looks like they got a telescope there for bird watching and people watching. Yeah. All right. Look, let's do this. Smash that subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Allow notifications on your Android and iPhone. We got Coach Matt Dean, John Hartwell, AD at ULM, and Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, joining us. In between, we're going to try to solve all the stuff going on in the SEC. Remember, you'll get out of life what you accept. You're about to learn a lot. Stand by.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob? You with us, Rob?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I hear you, John. Rob, you hear us?
Oh, yep. Here we are. Good morning. Sorry, had the old mute button stuck, the cough button. Coach Matt Dean over at Rhodes College in Memphis. John Hartwell, ADULM. Brendan Martin on location in Wisconsin. We used to have a lead analyst at A.G. Edwards, and she would say, the way she talked, she was from Wisconsin, she would say, we're going to take a hard look at stacks and bands. And I was like, what? Stacks and bands. That was stocks and bonds. I was like, wow, okay. I had to listen to that all day. I may pull all my hair out. Gentlemen, ladies, that's all there is. Lot going on in the athletic world. And I think that every day, you watch the Weather Channel or Fox Weather, it's not just, storms in the Midwest. It's 73 million people in the path of these storms. It's all drama. We ain't making this stuff up. The football magazines are out. There's a lot happening. And, we went back last week and talked about that proposed House versus NCAA settlement, $2.6 billion. And I think Dennis Dodd said on the show Friday, it could be $4.2 billion if they don't watch it. I'll start with Matt or John, whoever wants to answer it first. Had the NCAA 10 years ago, 15 years ago said, look, we are an amateur sports organization, a governing body that puts on championships on the D1, 2, and 3 levels. We're not all that. That's what the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball is for. If you want that, be good enough to get drafted and make that kind of money. But we're strictly amateur. But they didn't. They played kick the can, and they waited for the other shoe to drop. And now here we are, and we'll work through it because you will become what your thoughts are. Anyone want to answer that question or what I just said?
Wow, that's lobbing it out there, but I'll take a shot at it. And
Meatball.
I'll tell you about something that happened yesterday in a very good way for our Warhawks and ULM athletics, but the caveat to it, and it's very similar, and I'm sure you guys have discussed it on the show probably in the last week, Rob, the comments that Charles Barkley had to make about, he said, hey, I love my school. I had a great time there. I'll support it and donate, but I'm not giving to NIL. I had a similar deal yesterday. I was on the road. We're in the midst of our road shows right now and did one in Shreveport Monday night and one in Dallas Tuesday night. I was visiting with a donor from the area yesterday morning for breakfast and got a $3 million gift, which is great. Wish I could get one of those every day.
That's a great breakfast.
Yeah, it was
better than a sausage and biscuit.
Yeah, a great breakfast. But, being a prudent business person like this individual is, he said, hey, I want to set it up as a basically where you can spin off the interest. Y'all can use, $150,000 a year, however you want to use it. But I want to protect the corpus of it. I said, hey, it's your money, your donation. We're grateful for it. We'll certainly do that. But he had a caveat to it. He goes, I don't want any of this going to NIL. I want this going to things that help every student athlete. And I don't want it going to, a handful of kids with NIL. And I think we're going to continue to see some of that. I mean, because his point was, he goes, we've recreated the wheel for 99, for 1% of student athletes, and the other 99%, are they going to suffer from this because institutions are paying, back damages for the next 10 years, or, they're having to set aside this money that for 50 some odd schools out there, 20 to 22 million is not a backbreaker. For some others, such as us at ULM or other group of 5 schools, I mean, we can say we're going to opt in. You can opt in and not put that kind of money into it. But, what is that going to be to the detriment of potentially for day-to-day benefits and things to enhance the student athlete's experience? So I think,
correct.
Yeah. Yes. Are we going to survive out of the backside? Yeah, absolutely. So is it going to be a different business model? Whether you're at the Power 4 or the Group of 5, yeah, absolutely. So really for anybody in Division I, because the payments on the $2.7 billion, the back damages, are spread across all of Division I. So we're all having to adapt and change. But again, the old saying, you adapt and change, or you adapt, or you don't adapt and you die. So
yeah,
that's a simplistic view of what's going on.
So what they're saying is there's a 10-year amortization table to pay that thing off. John, we're going to go back to your comments, but what I've been talking about, the free market's going to fix this. When you've got game changers and the 30-year bond, that's a bellwether, what interest rates and home mortgage rates are going to be like. When Charles Barkley, who I know what he does for Auburn, for Tigers Unlimited, there's Charles Barkley, not really a Charles Barkley, but there's people like that at every school. And they start saying, man, this is ridiculous. I don't pay people with a college degree and a master's that kind of money coming out. Okay, that we're on to something. Matt Dean, you're over there revved up. Davenport, Iowa awaits your response.
So good to be back on the round table. And John, I was at Perkins for dinner last night here in town, and we call that a tremendous 12, what you experienced yesterday.
There you go.
That's congratulations. That's huge. And I think what we have forgotten about, which, John, correct me if I'm wrong, used to be the norm, was people, when they made these gifts to athletic departments in colleges, kind of like what Barkley said, they knew where their money was going, right? And right now, from what I'm hearing for some ADs like in your same situation, John, is booster fatigue, donor fatigue, when a kid gets a package that person may have helped enhance, and the next year he's in the portal. So you have a combination of the money is not directly going to the institution, and you have a portal that basically is NFL type free agency, right? It's just created the perfect storm where donors in essence, we're having to work harder to get those gifts. And I just think it's going to get really more difficult with this whole $22 million a year, like you're talking about, John, commitment level, almost like a pseudo salary cap that we're seeing right now. That people in the SEC and the Big Ten, they can afford it, but other folks can't. So how does that balance go in there? And then, the big thing that I also learned, John, we haven't been on the show together in a few weeks, was we're going to see some more equity type lawsuits when people figure out this money is going towards a couple sports and maybe not what your donor talked about, a distribution of wealth amongst all Warhawk athletes or whatever, right? So I think I think there was a little bit, at least there was a direction given to us by the NCAA, but I don't think there's any help in solving the problem. But like from your perspective, a gift is a gift. Same thing for us. I just met with an engineer yesterday. We're trying to finalize the stages of a new video board, which you think, oh, that's great, but we don't have any fiber cable running here. We've always been on like LED lights.
You damn right.
I'm just telling you, a lot of us are fighting for those gifts that John just got. Kudos to John. And a lot of these donors, they want to see, hey, that's part of the new press box. That's part of the new scoreboard. That's part of the new arena. And they don't want to hear about this money going to the athletes. And we knew that. Rob, you're the first one to bring it up. When this first went down, you talked about this a couple years ago. And I think now folks have experienced it. They're frustrated. And, they want something else for their money.
Well, where I see, what's going to be fun to watch? Title IX may ultimately be what I'm talking about in the free market, because when you start telling Title IX, there's going to be lawsuits that are coming, okay? You can see them coming, the harbinger of things to come. And they're going to start telling these NIL people, well, if you give to NIL, it's got to be equally distributed. And you're going to be, and I'm going to tell you what, trust me, I've helped raise money for a lot of different things. Managing it for different charities and causes. You look what happened to Wounded Warriors a few years ago when it was found out that some things were going on. Boy, that hurt them, and they suffered. This is what's going on with NIL. John, I think both of y'all have talked about this, the brick and mortar model. You make a big gift for a building or part of a huge gift that helps build a building. That's a legacy forever. I asked a coach a few days ago about NIL. There are no contracts that I know of to where you give a person $300,000, they don't like where they are on the depth chart. They leave at the end of the semester. That's not good. That's what's going. Trust me on this, folks. Connect the dots. It's going to work out. And we don't need to have only a handful of schools at the top and to hell with everybody else. That's collusion, and that's a monopoly. And gee, isn't that what antitrust laws are really all about? Which is what they're using to say you can't deny people the right to earn, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I'm telling you, folks, we're on to something. All right, let's switch gears. John, you look at the rise in college baseball. Omaha, SEC, ACC challenge right now. But there have been, Michigan, other schools have been, it used to be dominated by the West Coast. People talk about sports that make money. College football, we know that's what makes the grass grow. Basketball, men's and women's, and then baseball and softball. How much does it take on average to run a baseball program? Because you can only, right now, have 11.7 scholarships.
Yeah, I mean, and it has increased exponentially. All you have to do is look at SEC baseball coaches' salaries and how much those have gone up. But you're right when you make the the statement about today's level of scholarships, and that's one of the things that a lot of people think is coming to where the reins, if you will be taken off baseball scholarships. And instead of having 11.7, you can have 30 potentially full scholarships in baseball. But you got a 40-man roster. The scholarships are not that much, but when you look at team travel, things like that, gear, your coaching staff, and just like other sports, those coaching staffs have expanded. So baseball, yes, the costs have increased significantly, but the revenues have gone up too. I know you said you're going to have Yancey Porter on here in a little while.
Yeah, I hope you can stay on with us. Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember, my first few years at Ole Miss. I was there 03 to 12. Actually, we generated more revenue in baseball in a couple of years than we did in men's basketball. I know LSU was the same way. And you see these stadiums expanding. You see the premium areas in baseball. College baseball, especially in the SEC, the ACC, some extent in the Big 12, is a big time event. You've got some schools, that are selling out of their season ticket allotments. You've got, 8, 10 plus thousand fans at games. Even in our league, we're fortunate in the Sun Belt to be the number 4 RPI league country. We had 4 teams make the regionals this year, and what people are investing in the baseball parks, incredible.
Well, I mean, here I like that question from Gator George out in Oregon. I hope he lives in Bend, Oregon. That may be one of the most beautiful places to live in America. Can we make a rule to cap all college football coaches at $3 million a year? This has gotten out of hand. Well, the NCAA has made a lot of rules about scholarship limits and all that kind of stuff. Matt, is that something that's possible, even discussed? Because what I see happening is Kirby Smart. How much longer is he going to want to do this? There's no time off anymore. Something's got to give before this thing breaks.
I love the premise, but we have coordinators at the highest level making over $2 million a year, John. I mean, it's the cat's out of the bag with that really a while ago. And what happens is, I mean, if you have someone that's very successful in your job as your coordinator, you either have to pay them or you're going to lose them. And I'm not even talking about a head coach salary here. I'm talking about coordinator salaries at the highest level. And going back to like the revenue producing institutions, I mean, when you have the attendance that the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Big 12 generate in their revenue producing sports, that's really where this got started from. And then it's gotten a little bit out of hand. I don't know what Saban was making his last year, but I always felt like, what Nick did at Alabama. Obviously, Alabama has one of the biggest traditions in football with Bear Bryant.
Yeah.
They had the swoon, right, where they didn't have it right for a few years.
Yeah.
And you look at, from everything that I'm told, like when Alabama started their run under Nick or coach, I mean, the applications went up. Everything went up in the university, the marketing sales, the jersey sales, everything, you name it, the revenue that was produced. So it was actually really fair when you're looking at a business model of what they paid Nick Saban. So I think it's no different than, I think one of the biggest things that we haven't talked about since the decision is Dan Hurley staying at UConn. The Lakers offered him, I believe it was 6 years, $70 million. That wouldn't have put him in the top 5 of the NBA. And I don't really think Coach Hurley was looking for leverage because he loves where he's at.
Yeah.
He made a decision based on my team, my institution can do something that's never happened since John Wooden. We could win 3 consecutive national championships in men's college basketball. And that would be just phenomenal to do that. It's hard enough to get to the Final Four, let alone win back-to-back national championships, let alone win 3 in a row. So I was really excited, kind of a backdoor answer to your question. I was excited for all coaches with Dan Hurley staying at the college level because a lot of them have decided, hey, I'm tired of this system. But Hurley, the thing that we talk about here, but we don't enough, Hurley's a development guy. He doesn't care if he gets a 3-star. He's going to make that kid a great college player on a great college team that can make money professionally, even if it's an undrafted free agent, right?
Yeah.
You look at his roster now, Klingon, the big post player, John, and also Stephon Castle will both probably be lottery picks in this year's NBA draft. And I think their wing forward, I may be pronouncing his name wrong, Caravan or whatever, is coming back. So I'm just telling you, coaches are getting paid because what the market's demanding that they get paid.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. John, I'll throw this one at you because I've kind of thought this way, but I'm going to give credit to Gator George out in Oregon. If I were a coach making $7 million a year, I'd be funneling $1 million of it back to the players. What about if a model going forward, you say, okay, we're going to pay coaches this much, and it's going to be a lot, but out of that, they've got to pay their players, and who knows better than the coaches and the assistant coaches. So the head coach gets a certain amount, and you can start breaking it down, offense, defense, whatever, and they pay just like in the real world, those based on production. Put everybody on a commission basis, okay? You eat what you kill. I think that stuff like that, and in my opinion, can fix a lot of things. You'll find out who really wants it, and the coaches, again, know better than anyone who's putting forth the effort.
Yeah, I mean, I think conceptually that makes sense. I think we're going to run into a whole bunch of challenges with that. You look at the, you look at the NBA or the NFL. The coach, the guy who decides playing time, is not the guy necessarily who's making the business decision to see what is made. And I think if you have that much for lack of a better term, segregation of duties, if you got the same person writing the check that's determining playing time, you think we got a mess right now. I think that would be even more. Again, conceptually, 10,000 foot view, that makes some sense, and there is more skin in the game there. But again, and I know this sounds like a purist, if you will. We are in the education business, college athletics. We are in the education business, and what has gone by the wayside in almost all of these conversations is the value of getting a college education, a college degree. In a lot of cases now, when kids are, we're still on the tail end of the COVID year, so we've got a lot of kids getting a master's degree. Some people even going into, doctoral degree
fellowship.
Work. Yeah, at free of charge. There is a value to that. Oh, and by the way, the value of the experiences that you have, and the relationships that you build, and the life lessons that you're taught doing it. I mean, again, I agree with NIL to some extent, but when you've got, and this is happening, at the Power 4 level, you've got a lot of student athletes now who are making more than the trainers, the academic advisors, all of these people who are vital to their success as a student athlete. And somewhere we've gone askew with that.
Well, what we've done is we've allowed the attorneys behind a lot of this. A lot of it's this victimhood crap. Okay, flush that stuff down the toilet. Okay, I'm sick of it. But that's what it is. These student athletes are these victims. Oh, they've been preyed upon. Really, they get first preference on class, on labs. Far be it for me to ever think that a grade was given to an athlete because there was pressure on a teacher. I mean, come on. I'll tell you right now, you can make a living with your hands, but you can make millions with your mind. So hit the books. You've got to get an education. And when was the last time a player was ruled academically ineligible? I mean, George is putting a lot of thoughts out there, but I know this.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah. I've paid out of my pocket people around me to incentivize them. You've got to invest in people. And that's the number one thing. So this is a great discussion. But your education, I love the Auburn Creed. Athletics makes men strong. Study makes men wise. Character makes men great. What are we teaching? You're going to have, you better spend time in practice as a coach talking every day to your student athletes and letting them know how much it matters. Don't walk by somebody on the street and not say hello to them. People don't like being ignored. But when you have a lot of mommy ball and daddy ball at young ages and you're not developing the guys behind them and the girls behind them, you're going to pay a price. I would love to have both of y'all running my athletic department because you stand for what's right. And that's the way it should be, Matt.
Well, one of the things that gets lost in this whole thing, and I think John can appreciate this because if you look at, where he's been, the Ole Misses of the world, the Utah States of the world, now the ULMs of the world. Okay, what gets lost in this whole thing is John and I report to, though they're not on our staff, the human resource director is one of the most important, influential people that John and I have to deal with because people don't realize how hard it is to get rid of a coach sometimes, to hire a coach sometimes. We have a shortage of SIDs and trainers in the country too. You talk about two areas that are very integral in the success of an athletic department that we never talk about. When I got a chance to meet Bo Carter because of the show, I was in awe. God. I'm just in awe. And what that man has done behind the scenes to enhance the student athlete experience, we don't talk about.
I agree.
Those people are part of the model. And then when you talk about all this, John and I have a job description, okay? Well, you can't. I mean, none of these kids that are getting paid are employees of the college unless I've missed something here. I mean, it's just too difficult, Rob. All this stuff is great to talk about.
Yeah.
But what we've created is a model that's not sustainable. And now you add to it, we've essentially say the rich get richer now because, you're allowed basically to take $22 million out of your budget and pay for kids. Yeah. And we're not even going to make a model that says you have to be transparent and equitable in the process. That's going to lead to more lawsuits. Yeah. It's crazy beyond crazy. It's putting more pressure on great ADs like John Hartwell to raise money where other people have 100,000 people in the stands. Yeah. It's different. It's just a different revenue game for people. Yeah. It's so unfair right now. Yeah. It is so unfair.
A wise man told me about 5 years ago, parking my truck at Auburn, scared man ain't never won a fight. And John Hartwell, it's time people start, a big guy like you at 6'7", 211 pounds of solid steel with a new knee, and start saying, look, enough of this crap. You're allowing this group of fearmongers to push this narrative that the athletes are all victims. BS. I'll tell you who the victims are a lot of times is the fans having to pay out the ass for tickets to see a crap-ass product, okay? You don't go back to a restaurant if they serve you bad food again and again and again. But fans, hey, wait till fans start hitting the portal. But we better remember what a college or a university is there for, John Hartwell. I know you got to go, but as always, absolutely love having you on. I wish you were my athletic director. But closing comments before you have to get back to work and go have another $3 million breakfast.
Yeah, I hope I can have another one soon. Hey, and I, as I was telling you, we're in the midst of these road shows now that we're doing around the state and around the region. And the one thing that hasn't changed, although, it's hard for some people to hold on to this, all of these student athletes who participate, whether they're at Rhodes, at ULM, at Ohio State, they're still called student athletes. Yes. And I'm afraid that's, trying to go out the window on us too. But at the end of the day, we're in the education business. And I feel like that we can make a difference in young people's lives because, again, despite how much money they may be getting in NIL, this small segment of student athletes getting it, the vast majority of them are never going to play professional sports. Right. They're not going to make a living in the sport that they're playing for the love of the game. That's what I've always said about Division III athletics. Those kids are not on scholarship. They're not really getting anything. It's unadulterated collegiate athletics because they're playing for the love of the game. And I think that's something that's lost on with all this money there. But we are in the education business, And I know we've got to adapt for some of these things, but I don't want us to lose sight of the education that we're providing, not just for the 4 years that they're here, but to arm student athletes for a lifetime. Because again, only a small fraction are going to make a living playing professionally. And here's the other thing. I mentioned this on here once before, going back to the attorneys. Fast forward 3 to 5 years from now, you're going to see a class action lawsuit from some of these kids who are getting NIL money on top of their full scholarship, on top of unlimited meals, personalized weight training, all they're getting in the training room, medical treatment, all of that. And they're going to say, well, hey, I got $150,000 a year at XYZ University on top of my scholarship. Gosh, I didn't make the NFL or the WNBA or whatever. And now I'm in the real world. And guess what? I can't just walk out there with my degree, whatever it may be in, and get a $150,000 a year job. I got wronged by the system. That goes back to what you were saying.
Yeah.
Some group of attorneys will take that lawsuit and say, yes, you're right. You were set up for failure during your collegiate time.
Well, let me just say that's already happened. Eric Ramsey at Auburn did not make the NFL, and his wife at the time, I got a pretty good knowledge of that story. They pushed it to blame Auburn for him not getting to the NFL, and got that Donald Watkins attorney in Birmingham and some people behind him. And that's what that was all about. And Eric Ramsey, the decorum prohibits me telling you what I think of that. What makes him human is he has a heart and he does have blood, but that's the only thing that makes him, because he allowed himself to be used. But that's what we better watch out for, John. Absolutely. People blaming the colleges, because your average NFL career is less than 4 years. Now, at 26, 27, do you have enough money to just do whatever you want the rest of your life and never work again? Financial literacy is what else we better be teaching these student athletes. How to read up a balance sheet, debit and ledger, credits. John, tell them how they can follow you. You're a CPA by trade, a proud Citadel graduate, and UMS in Mobile, a man who never eats frozen seafood. I love you.
Hey, by the way, I do appreciate the compliment saying 211 pounds. I wish I was 211 pounds, but just a few over that. Just a few biscuits over that. So,
couple over.
But ULMWarhawks.com, we just had our final participant, if you will, last weekend in the NCAA championships. Had a first team All-American women's long jumper, finished 7th in the country. And all eyes are on fall sports right now, trying to get ready for the football opener August 31, Thursday night against Jackson State here. John _Hartwell at Twitter. And, as always, guys, great being on with y'all. Enjoy the conversation. I will say this. I know we talk about the challenges of some of the things going on right now. The beauty of this, college athletics will persevere. Are there going to be changes? Yes. But, it's one of the greatest vehicles in the world, not only to allow kids to get education, to participate in sports, to have people from all socioeconomic, religious, ethnic backgrounds to come together for a common cause. It will survive, but we are going through a period of transition. But guys, have a great day. Thanks for having me on.
You bet, man. We got this. And guys, I'll throw this at you, Matt. You combine ROTC training with a college education, because nothing beats what you learn in the military. I'll never forget, Dad told me when he graduated from Auburn, immediately was sent to Camp Stewart, Georgia, in Hinesville, right near Savannah, which is now Fort Stewart. And that 3 months in, they quit sending troops to Korea. And he was like, well, dang, why am I in the Army? And they started letting people out pretty early. But he said they were working so hard on a project. He went to his battalion commander one time and said, Colonel, he said, yes, sir, Lieutenant. He said, morale in my platoon is terrible. We hadn't had a day off in 49 days. The colonel looked at my father and said, "Lieutenant, are you through?" And he said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "You'll get a day off when morale improves." That is a valuable lesson, okay? Hey, I want to say something about our sponsors. You seeing them up there right now? Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. Now, let me show you something. This is called the Turtle Box, okay? Unbelievable. I got this yesterday out at Hewlett and Dunn. I got that at Hewlett and Dunn. It's waterproof. It's the most unbelievable sound speaker. Take it to the beach, the lake, on the river, a waterfall, tailgating at a football game. They got them at Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. A lot of stuff on sale right now. Over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's boots. And the boot sale, 25% off all boots through Father's Day. They're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And also, let me say something about another sponsor who just joined the team, Coolmore Trucking, Logistics, Transportation. Coolmore Logistics. They have joined the team. Anything you need shipped on a flatbed, LTL, van, any container, everything goes on a truck. Talking seed, cotton, rice, steel, bricks, lumber, whatever. They are Memphis-based with a global reach. Coolmore Logistics and Transportation. They get the job done. They're networked in. I went over to the facility, to their office Friday, Matt. All these screens are up there. They got a load that needs to be shipped from Miami or Jacksonville out to Los Angeles. They put that out there on the screen that they've got a load that needs to be delivered, and their phone just blows up. They have got an awesome Robert Weaver, John, all the great people over there. They are committed to making your job easier, because if you've got to have goods and services moved across the country, Coolmore Logistics and Transportation is your company. Memphis-based with a global reach. And also say something about Chad House, the great folks at ECS House Industries in Cherry Valley, Arkansas. Cannot say enough good things about Chad House, other than every year around Christmas, when he writes bonus checks to his employees, he said he loves doing this. It's his favorite day of the year because he loves his employees. Talk to anybody that works for Chad House, House Industries. They make the agricultural products like the Better Roller, the Pulverizer, the Better Chopper. We got a lot of farmers and ag people that listen to this show. They make the aerators for the catfish farms. I like this guy, Matt Perry Mason, down in Florida. I'm looking forward to meeting all these. We got a lot of people that watch this show, a lot of Gators, because we're simulcast with the Buddy Martin show, Matt. I like Perry Mason. I wish I could see that comment. But Perry Mason's a farmer. Said he's been pulling for the Gators since he was 10 or 11 years old. We're just proud to have all of our sponsors like the Vitamin Shop, Tom Martin's Body Shop, Gaddis Home Innovation. Check them all out on our website, Sidelines, SIDELINES.live. Hey, the Turtle Box speaker is fantastic. Love mine, best sound, and dang near indestructible. Like, my wife tells me when I wear something nice, she goes, "Don't wear your nice clothes out to play." I'm like, I'm a kid. I got the Turtle Box yesterday at HewlettandDunn.com. That thing, it's unreal. Last night, I'm in here working, doing research for the show, Matt, and I put on Tom Jones' greatest hits. It's not unusual. Is there a greater singer than Tom Jones, Elvis Presley, and then there's Willie Nelson? I love them all, man. But look, Matt, I don't know where Yancey is. I'm telling you one thing. He's supposed to be with us here, but let's get on some stuff here. Omaha College World Series. What is it about baseball? I love it. We got the Gators, we got the Aggies, we got Kentucky, and we got Tennessee. Then we got Virginia, Florida State, Gene Deckerhoff, Florida State Seminole football. He's no longer the broadcaster, but NC State and North Carolina. Man, Omaha is – which of those fan bases you think is going to travel the best?
Well, I will tell you this, and I see Brendan on the screen too right now. I took some time to watch a lot of super regional games last weekend, Just really the amount of energy in the fan bases of the teams that hosted. I was really impressed watching how Florida just battled their butts off to beat Clemson, who's a really good ball club. And that game 3 was just game 2 was really electric. I've been to Omaha when my son was in high school playing for Christian Brothers. We took a team up there in the summer and stayed around to watch some of the games. I don't know if it's just me growing up in the Midwest, just the Midwest vibe, but you get all those fan bases. A lot of them are from the South, obviously, to Omaha. It is one of the most electric experiences I've ever been around. And I've been to double-digit Final Fours, so it's tremendous. And I think looking at the bracket this weekend, people, they're going to show up. Kentucky's drivable. Honestly, Tennessee drives. Florida State has a phenomenal fan base. Yeah. I have a good friend that played collegiate baseball against them in the 80s, when Coach Martin was still there. And they've had an unbelievable tradition there for probably 4+ decades, Yeah. And the fact that you got 4 ACC and 4 SEC, that just makes it a really wide open deal. And I'll tell you what, my son works in Oregon, as you know, right? So I'm watching the Super Regional last weekend. Oregon's up 7-2. It's 8-4 in the 7th. This is game 2. They're down 1-0. I've never seen this before. A&M scores 9 runs on 2 hits. Literally, there was 5 guys walked in a row. And I felt so bad, but I will tell you, we had this discussion last week about some of the guys in the portal that are getting taken from Division III schools like myself to Division I schools. There is a lack of pitching out there, guys. There's a lack of pitching, and I can see why, with only 11.7 scholarships like you discussed, Rob, why some of these kids are going to leave schools like Rhodes and be in the back end of a bullpen, because when you get to the 7th, 8th inning, you just saw so many of those games were just double-digit games in terms of scoring. It was remarkable to me.
Yeah. All right, let me say something real quick. I like this. Perry Mason loves some Elvis, Rob. I was really lucky when I would go over to Sports 56 WHBQ to fill in and just be on with my friend Jeff Weinberger, who passed away 8 years ago. Love the guy. He got me into radio back in the late 80s. And I would go in there, and George Klein, who was Elvis Presley's best friend, the Jeeker. George Klein would always be in the studio because he was a producer at WHBQ, and he was on air and all. And I used to talk to George when I get there early. And talking about NIL, George Klein was telling the story one time. He said, we'd go out to Hollywood to do movies with Elvis and Margaret and whoever. We'd be on the studio. Guess who all the grips were and all the people doing all the lifting? USC and UCLA football players. They did that in recruiting back years, 50, 60 years ago. That was kind of NIL. That's how a lot of them got into Hollywood, but they got on the set. Okay? So think about that thing. There's been an NIL going on forever. You talk about the Final Four. You talk about the College World Series. Really, you've got the college football playoff is an entity of its own, guys, that makes money. It pays 85, 90% of the money that we get from TV. Then March Madness, about $1.2 billion, which is 90% or more of the NCAA's budget. The Men's College World Series. Wow, that one makes money. But there's 91 sports the NCAA conducts national championships for, guys. Only a handful of them make money. And I think you got to start. But here's the thing. College football, we're going from $450 million a year from a 14 playoff. It's most likely going to triple to $1.35 billion, and even more with 14. So there's a lot of value there. But I'm with Tony Barnhart, and he was on the Buddy Martin show last night. Love that guy. So was Allie Peak Wilbur and Buddy Martin. That was a great show last night. I watched it. And I recommend everybody watch it Monday through Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, live on YouTube. It's a great show produced by this guy.
Just go right after this show and watch it. It's right there. So
back to back. Because don't watch the news, okay? By the way, you become what your thoughts are. I see what's happening right now. There's so much talk about it. We're going to fix, and NIL will fix itself. Charles Barkley coming out and saying, and believe me, he's given millions of dollars to Auburn, but he also gives to other schools. He gave $1 million to Morehouse a few years ago in Atlanta. He didn't go to Morehouse, okay? But he spends a lot of time in Atlanta, with Shaq and those guys, Ernie Johnson, doing studio. Yes, SEC, but I don't want to see only a handful of schools any good. I mean, that when you have the people in New York, what do they dream of for a World Series? A Subway Series, they call it. Dodgers, Yankees. I think because the Brooklyn Dodgers are what the LA Dodgers are now. I think 5 or 6 teams. We love underdogs in America, ladies and gentlemen. We love the story of Horatio Alger, the guy who overcame all the odds. And I think what's so fun I get so fired up about doing this show every day. It never has ever a single time seemed like work. It's a passion. It's a way of life. Matt, you talk about it a lot. The student athletes that you coached, that you pushed hard, that hated your guts, that come back 10, 15, 20 years later as a doctor, as an attorney, as an architect, or whatever. It's all worth it, and you know it.
Well, what gets lost is the journey, to be honest with you, from a coaching perspective.
Yeah.
We as fans watch it on TV and we see the results of, let's say, the Final Four, or the national championship, or the College World Series, whatever, and we kind of get a little glimpse of the picture. But the journey, I've been fortunate to coach multiple NCAA tournament teams. I've never been to a Final Four. Had a team I thought was good enough, and had one of those nights and missed a couple free throws at the last minute and got eliminated right before the Sweet 16 twice. But what you don't see behind the scenes is just those last 10 minutes of practice where everyone's giving their all. We're not going to get out of this drill until we get a stop. We're not going to get out of this drill until we get a rebound. And just how hard it is to win a game. I'm just going to tell you something. To prepare to win a game is one of the hardest things to do. And I've been fortunate to be in this business 3+ decades. Now, though I'm out of coaching, I mentor a lot of coaches, and to me, the best coaches are also the best people or game managers, whatever you want to call them. They manage people well. In essence, Rob, they have the same skill set that you kind of have with your clients, right?
Yeah.
If you didn't have a great relationship with a lot of your clients, Rob, they would go somewhere else. That's just business. That's life. It's no different in coaching. And I know we talk a lot about the glamour and the glitz of the NIL, but man, the development process, I get great satisfaction to this day reflecting back on players that weren't very good as a first-year kid that end up being an all-conference player that now are lawyers and doctors, or their fathers or mothers, whatever. I coach men and women. And that's what gets lost. There's so many cool scenes that I don't know that we as coaches, sometimes, when we have John Hartwell on the show and he gets a $3 million gift, think about it, guys. That's unbelievable for an institution like ULM, and John secures that gift. And obviously there's a couple caveats with it. Those things happen every day. When my son worked at A&M, they had more money than the Federal Reserve, I swear. They printed it almost, And but for ULM to have someone like John Hartwell there, it just says a lot right now about him and his career, that he's about the student-athlete experience, that he's about developing relationships for those donors to make them know that, hey, your dollar is going to enhance the student-athlete experience of all of our student-athletes. And that gets lost. And that's, you're never going to, being part of the SEC as just a fan. I've never coached in the SEC. I go to these venues for tailgates and weekends. Brendan, I've not been down to a Florida home football game, and that's probably going to be on my bucket list.
Oh, man. You need to run down to Gainesville.
I'm telling you. And that's what gets lost in this, because we're worrying about this going away. I'm telling you guys, it's not going away. It's too big of an event to go away. It's never going away. We may not like what it looks like, but it's not going away. That's my message.
I totally agree with you, and I think that's like mindset or whatever. But like for me, maybe it's just as I'm a producer or whatever. It's like, but I've got to always just deal with reality and move to the next thing. So it's like, okay, this is where I'm at. I can't fight that. I can't change it. So this is what I got to deal with. So as I'm thinking about that, and I think about that when I hear everyone talking about NIL and everything else, and I say, well, it's the same kind of thing. It's like, I want to see now, what do we do with today? Because once the money's involved, and Rob, you're the one that's really alluded to this all along. Once the money gets involved to a certain level, it's not going to matter what anyone thinks. So the money's going to do the talking. And obviously that if we take that and mindset and frame an argument with it, and say, well, I don't really know what's going to happen in the future or whatever it may be. We know what's going to happen. Follow the money. What's the money going to do? Where are we going to split out? Right? There's going to be a break somewhere. It's like a stock, Rob. I sound like Rob now. I've had enough. I've got Rob Browne in me now. A stock goes way up and you split, right? The SEC is it's gonna happen to the SEC. You can only get so big. You're gonna either be a super conference and take over, be your own league, or you're gonna figure it out. And everyone's gonna join. We're in that sort of place right now, and I think what we're gonna see is everything that we've all talked about, and then that much more, because we're gonna compound it all with a whole bunch of gambling money and a whole bunch of 4 or 5 years of this, and then NIL money and dark money and all this kind of stuff, and we're going to be left with pretty much what we had before. It's just going to be look and sound a whole lot different, and we'll adjust it different ways, but everyone's going to get theirs, right?
Yeah, well, Tony Barnhart, not even the adults can screw it up. He's right. David Whitley, the Gainesville Sun, love that guy. He's on the Buddy Martin show Tuesday nights. I get to be on with him. It's pretty much idiot proof. And that's where we are. I'll tell you a tough discussion that I have with clients, and I've had over my 33-year career as a financial advisor, and that is this. Stock goes up and up and up. I'll tell them, trees don't grow to the sky. Okay? You know what happens. That's why you see that's why you see the tree cutters out there along power lines all the time, cutting the tree branches off so they don't fall on the power lines. Okay? Then you knock the power out. There's a lot of effects, and there's money, there's contracts in there. Where we're going to go, I see this happening in college. Trust me, the fans own college sports, and you've got to read through and push through, okay? No means tell me more. Now, you hadn't been to a game down in Gainesville, the Swamp. That's an awesome atmosphere. Architecturally, they're brilliant to go down. It traps the heat and the humidity in there. Imagine playing a football game wearing your clothes in a sauna, okay? That's the Swamp. It's a psychological advantage. And you think about all these great venues. I remember traveling around Europe in college, showing pictures of SEC football stadiums to people. They would say, what is this? I go, it's a cathedral. It's Death Valley at Baton Rouge. It's Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's Jordan-Hare. It's the Swamp. It's Neyland Stadium on the banks of the Tennessee River. You know what? Fans ain't going to the games. Trust me. They're not going to go or not go because of who you're playing. Real fans are going to watch the Gators. A lot of times they don't even know who they're playing. People say, Rob, why are you going to Auburn to see them play Weber State or New Mexico State? God, that's a sad subject after last year, but I'm not going to see them. I'm going to see I've got a lot of friends of mine who will tell you, I'm a season ticket holder or I'm going to every Auburn game, but most of the time I'm going to be at 715 West Magnolia at the Sigma Newhouse or whatever, because they want to see their friends. That's what college, and it's getting bigger and bigger because the Gators have about 500,000 alumni. Alabama's got 250,000. Auburn's got 250,000. Ole Miss, Arkansas. People are going to be and celebrate the game, but to see their friends. I spoke to a group in Little Rock, a bunch of Sigma News from Arkansas, April 10th, Jim McClellan and Michael Miller. These guys were awesome. There was a doctor there who was 92. These guys, it was like when they were together, it was like they were all 21 again. That's what we get when we go back to college. And you are never, ever going to stop people wanting to go back to their universities. You can talk about NIL and have these pictures of guys driving a Bentley when they're 18. I know the wealthiest people I know that are worth in the billions, none of them own a Bentley. Most of them drive a 10 or 15-year-old car or SUV.
Rob, but it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
This is it. You're gonna have to just get.
No, it is. It is.
Rob. I'm gonna have an intervention with you right now. This is it, Rob.
I know.
Old days are on. Glory days are over. This is not college. This isn't it. We go to school online. Technology's changing everything. This is our future. We are not going back. Ever, never, ever. And whether we like it or not, it's all – kids don't even go to class hardly anymore. They're online. Our college experience, NIL, it's all good. It's not going to be the same now. So where are we? So we could talk about that, or we could talk about how are we going to frame it with what we got now? How do we have to change it? Because we have a chance in this window to make a difference, right, Matt? Or to set precedents, to put some SOS in, to say, okay, we've got all this stuff. But Matt, what does it take, in a sense, if I came to Matt Dean and I said, all right, I've got an unlimited amount of money. I want you guys to go compete. $100 million, $150 million. He come to you, write a check. Is that a reality? Can you take something like that and allocate it to the football team, or can you take it and say, are we at that place where some kid could just be like, I love Metro State in Denver, and I want to make the Roadrunners the best basketball squad that's ever been. Can they just come in and change that game?
Matt, let me just say real quick. I'm not saying I'm already pushing through all this other stuff. I'm just saying we're going to overcome it. It is exactly what's going on. There's nothing we can do about it. But I just got a notification. Sidelines has now made it to Belize. Lonesome Ray is watching us down in Belize right now. Sidelines. Hoo-ah! There we go. Matt, answer that question is.
Well, Brendan, I think from a resource management standpoint, it's a lot easier to do it in the sport of basketball than football. To your kind of, let's take Metro State, who has, if I'm not mistaken, a great history in basketball, right? I mean, they've had some really, really good teams. Are they still Division II? Am I right on that?
Yes.
Okay. So, I've always felt like I've coached basketball. I have a roster size between 12 and 15. If you gave me tomorrow, put me anywhere you want, at like an underdog you gave me the resources, you allowed me to handpick my staff, I'm going to go out and make you an NCAA tournament type team because I've done it before. I've done it for 3 decades. I know what to do. But taking it from that level to maybe winning your conference and competing in a game to the highest level, I think there's a group of 40, 50 schools that can only hold that brand, in my opinion. And that's okay. Because I still think those other schools, there's got to be TV contracts out there for their playoff systems and their championships. There's another pie of money out there with all these alumni base of all these other schools that if we direct properly, we can kind of meet your goal halfway, Brendan, I think. But definitely in certain sports football is so unique with the scholarship numbers you have to be successful. And then what's crazy, we talk about all these numbers, but if you don't have the one quarterback, you're not worth a flip. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. You talk about all these numbers, all this money, it comes down to one position usually. And that's how the guy spins the ball. How much time in the film room is that person able to translate what's going on into the field play and be successful? I'm always amazed by Steve Spurrier, and I watch documentaries on him of how great of a player he was, how great of a coach he was. And half the time, he'd go out there just with his gut and now we got to run this play. Steve Spurrier just knew stuff about players that other people didn't know because he was a great player.
Because he was such a great player, right? He's one of those few great players that transcended into a great coach.
But Brendan, that doesn't happen really. Most of the great players don't become great coaches, right?
Yeah.
Because they're too hard on other guys. They're too hard on their other guys. Spurrier he's the ball coach. He's like, well, if you can't do it, man, I'll get another guy to do it. He wasn't gonna just lie to you. He was just very transparent, it seemed like.
It's critical. I mean, and great players don't make good coaches usually because they think, oh, well, I could do it. You can do it. It's not that easy. There are a handful of them that have ever done it. Listen, all this stuff, and I'm right. I know I am. On NIL and all, donor fatigue, that's what will work it out. But at the end of the day, the fans are going to keep coming to the games because, you know what? Once the games kick off and tip off in basketball, baseball's first pitch, whatever, you pick the sport, they're still going back to college to see their friends. And they're going to, oh, by the way, go to the game. And, I remember hearing Pat Sullivan say at a speech many years ago, he said, when you're winning, that guy, that gal, they're a lot more likely to pull out their checkbook and write you a check than they are if you're losing, okay? Nobody wanted to row out to the Titanic for cocktails, okay? But the band played all the way through. I'll give them credit for that. Rest their souls. Listen, all this negativity and all this stuff is a product of people accepting it. I refuse to accept it, and I'll push through it. Find excuses to win. There's a lot of great stories out there, people. We're the most blessed nation on earth. We're the most fortunate and blessed people. But most important thing we can do is give back to those people that help us along the way. Go make great things happen. God bless America. I am Floyd R. Turbo, American. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
I was just wanting you guys to see before I left, Rob.
That's gorgeous.
I just want everyone to take a look here.
My God.
It's a tough place where I am right now.
I know.
Hey, hello to my sister, Rebecca.
Hey, Rebecca.
We're just out there as the boys are getting the pool ready for us. And, I might hit a couple balls out there. The way out there, Rob, is Lake Geneva.
Oh, God.
So you know. And
hey,
thanks to all you 100 people out there today. We broke 100 live viewers today.
Wow, that's awesome.
Thanks to all those people watching on Twitter and Facebook, all of that. So, just always want to say thanks to all those people. Thanks to you, Rob. We'll have a good weekend here and all that good stuff. I'll catch up with you tomorrow.
Tonight.
Tonight. Sorry, I wanted to say tonight.
Tonight. Yeah, and then back again, same bat channel, same bat time tomorrow morning. Hey, awesome discussion. I love it. We'll see you then. Take care. Have a great day up there.
Will do.
All right.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.